Welcome back. Time now to check out the latest news, and although this is usually a quiet time of the year between the end of the EICMA Expo and the start of the new year, there's actually been quite a surprising string of press releases arriving in my inbox. So let's take a quick trawl through them and sum up what's been happening the last couple of weeks. Top of the list, I think, has to be KTM, or perhaps more accurately the parent company Pira Mobility, which has been very busy announcing that they have bought into Italian icon MV Augusta, acquiring a 25.1% stake to the tune of a cool 30 million euros. This comes on the back of them announcing a deal to get involved with the supply side of MV's business, giving them some extra purchasing power with suppliers, I would imagine, and also in some markets enacting a strategy of selling MVs through KTM dealerships. I have to be honest here and say that I think this is probably only the beginning. I would expect the investment to continue until Pira Mobility has a controlling interest in the Italian manufacturer. Having interviewed MV Augusta CEO Timur Sardarov earlier this year, it was obvious that his main goal was to get out of MV Augusta, hopefully profitably, either by finding new investment or going public. Before I move on from MV entirely, I think I should quickly show you these images of a new concept that the company showed just before the EICMA Expo at their new flagship store in Milan, the home city of EICMA obviously. I think perhaps a cash squeeze meant they didn't have a stand at the show itself, where we were all expecting to see the finished production ready versions of the two new adventure bikes that they showed off as concepts at last year's EICMA. Anyway, this new concept, the 921S, pays tribute to the 750S of the early 1970s, and it is undoubtedly absolutely lovely in every respect. Before the Austrian intervention in MV, I wouldn't have got too excited about its imminent arrival, but now it could conceivably be built within 18 months or so. Powered by a 921cc inline 4 and pumping out 116 horsepower, if it rides even a fraction as good as it looks, expect the waiting list to be very long indeed. And while we're talking about impending MVs, I think it's worth mentioning the latest addition to the Super Veloci family, also featuring an inline 4-cylinder motor, this time the 209 horsepower unit borrowed from the Brutale RR. It is of course gorgeous, and equally obviously it is expensive. Don't expect any change from 1.1 million rand. Enough of the lottery-winning exotica, let's move on to some model news from KTM itself, because they've announced the return of the 790 in both Duke and Adventure versions. Given the continued success of the 890s, you have to assume that the reintroduction of these earlier, smaller and cheaper models is a response to the arrival of 4 new affordable middleweight models from Honda and Suzuki, both having one off-road and one road version of their new parallel twins. These reborn 790 models will be fully manufactured by KTM's Chinese partner CF Moto, and the Orange Men will be hoping that these slightly less highly spec'd 95 horsepower versions of the 890 models will be able to steal some of the attention away from the new Japanese kids on the block. Right, just enough time to ruin the upbeat, aspirational mood with a sad story. A sad story that adds to the already depressing saga of Suzuki leaving MotoGP. You might have heard that Alex Rins, who did them the favour of winning their last MotoGP at Valencia at the end of the season, had asked to be able to keep one of the race bikes. That request, reasonable as it seems, was denied, even though I think money was offered. And now I hear that all the race machines are now headed for the crusher. Yup, it seems that the tax implications for Suzuki in Japan mean that the wisest, most bean counter friendly solution is to destroy the bikes completely. Is it just me, or does this seem like the final soul-destroying nail in the coffin of what is already a heartbreaking story? I have owned and raced Suzukis in my own deeply inglorious past, and I have always had a soft spot for the manufacturer, but all I feel now is the urge to offer a slightly wet fart in their general direction. I'm sure I'll get over it, and I'm sure their new middleweight bikes will be very good, but I am also equally sure that I will miss their presence on the world's racing grids next year. Merry bloody Christmas, Suzuki. And on that cheerful, slightly smelly note, I'm going to call it for this episode. We'll be back again next week riding more new bikes. See you then.